Hey there, this is Plain Jane in my own kitchen here in the country in Virginia. This video is about 7 days late because we just passed Columbus Day. And I want to know, was Christopher Columbus a sensitive, caring, sharing kind of guy by 2019 standards? What do you think? Let's see. I don't think so. Does he get to keep his day anyway? Again, let's see. Check the record. First of all, what kind of people would sign up for an open-ended ship trip to Asia in a day when people believed that sea monsters were out there large enough to swallow a ship? Only a certain type of person. The captain and crew of the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina, bound for Asia by an untried route. There were people who valued the rewards of risk-taking and the adrenaline rush of danger. A lot of mischief has been done by Howard Zinn's depiction of Columbus in a people's history of the United States. And I'm sure a disservice has been done to other people too. It's been read in colleges and high schools since 1980 when it was published. As an anti-American leftist, Howard Zinn had an axe to grind, and he ground it and ground it and ground it. He could have just written, honestly, from a leftist point of view, I think, that other people did. But no, Howard Zinn distorts the record in order to paint Columbus as a murderer, thief, rapist, and slaver. An honest historian or writer would use an ellipse to show where writing has been left out and do so without changing the meaning. Howard Zinn just isn't honest. He quotes a description of the Arawaks from Columbus's log. After describing them as handsome and well-built, he writes, "They have no iron. Their spears are made out of cane. They would make fine servants." Translate, slaves. So Columbus thought it would be easy to enslave the Arawaks because they had only primitive weapons? We are to believe that? Not exactly. Zinn took the last two sentences that he connected with ellipses from log entries that were 2 days apart. Here's what most likely happened. When Columbus signaled to ask why the Arawaks had marks all over their bodies, they signaled back to him that the wounds had come from people who had tried to capture them, people who came from other islands. Columbus's theory was that people from the mainland had come to enslave these Indians because they were so docile and obliging, and because they had only primitive weapons. In other words, it was the other natives who may have seen the Arawak as fine servant material. When the Santa Maria ran aground, the timbers were taken to build a fort. And Columbus left 39 of his guys there while he went back to report to Ferdinand and Isabella. He couldn't just cable, couldn't use a transatlantic cable. While he was gone, they were killed by natives. Now, Howard Zinn claims that they were killed for roaming in gangs, looking for gold, taking women and children for sex and labor. Well, maybe they did, but it is in no way certain. Local leaders may have killed these well-armed foreigners to maintain their own power, but that version would question Zinn's mirage of these people as noble savages living in socialist harmony. brings in, even though he leans heavily on the record of Bartolomé de las Casas, a reformist priest, he does so without mentioning the fact that de las Casas really admired Columbus and didn't blame the atrocities on him, but blamed them on people who disobeyed his orders and those who came after him. It's easy to imagine that the sailors who had plotted to mutiny and kill Columbus while they were still at sea would be even harder to control when they got turned loose on an island. And slavery was accepted. So yes, they would have used violence and terror to force locals to work for them. However, what really killed most natives was European disease. Where I have a problem is with blaming everything on Columbus and taking away his day. He did a great and imaginative thing. We can't navigate to Food Line without GPS. And he crossed the Atlantic, the Sea of Darkness, navigating by the stars and using dead reckoning. And if you know what dead reckoning is, please let me know. He wasn't planning to enslave people that he didn't even know existed. He wanted fame and gold. All the explorers wanted gold. Now, it's very easy for us to be anti-slavery from a distance of 537 years. Much harder would be to live out these views in a world where they were considered eccentric or just plain wrong. We hope that we would be able to stand firm against the flow of a world that considered slavery to be necessary or even ordained by God. Do we know right now if we own goods that were made by Chinese slave labor? Now, I'm not recommending anything, just posing the question. I actually don't know if this shirt, it is cotton, was made by slave labor in China or not. I really don't know. I haven't checked. But I did read recently that Muslim slaves in China were being used to produce cotton goods. What is it? The connection between cotton and slavery. Doesn't that sound familiar? And are we totally against the ownership of human beings? Do we believe that a mother can own a fetus for 9 months and has the right to dispose of it as she sees fit? Now, don't go off on me. I'm not trying to say a slave and a fetus are the same thing. But they are both human and cannot be legitimately owned, no matter what the law says. Columbus was a visionary and an adventurer who opened up the West for all that happened afterwards, for better or worse. To celebrate his day is not to celebrate everything that he did, but to recognize that even though some European or African would eventually have done it, as someone did before Columbus, but nothing, Leif Erikson didn't start the ball rolling like Columbus did. But they would have crossed, somebody after Columbus would have crossed the ocean eventually. But you know, Columbus was the one that did it. He was the one that really deserves the fame, because the first person is the one that deserves the fame, like Neil Armstrong. Come on, let him have his day.